down to Palm Springs on a Saturday and saw Charlie, and Keely was there, plus Charlie's girlfriend, Jimmy, his sister, brother-in-law, so forth. And never remember it. I'll never forget that, Remy. His sister and brother-in-law came out of the bedroom and they said, "Ori, Charlie like to talk to you." So I went back in the bedroom, big king size. Charlie laying down. I laid down and I held his hand. I said, "Charlie, I know what you're worried about." I said, "Don't worry. I will take care of your brother." And he just tightened his grip on my hand. He says, "Ori, you promise." I said, "I know that's what's bothering you." He says, "Ori, you promise." I said, "I promise." He said, "Ori, because your promise is the best in the world." I said, "Charlie, don't worry about Jimmy. I'll take care of him. All I want you to do, concentrate on getting better so I can have you performing down at the Queen Mary." That was a Saturday. On Sunday, I flew to New York. Monday morning, Charlie passed away. They had a service one day down in Palm Springs. And I kept my promise. After the service in Palm Springs, they flew Charlie's body to Buffalo, and that's where the wake funeral was for 4 or 5 days. It was a big, big event. And I drove from New York City to Buffalo. And I was with Jimmy every day from morning to night. But the first thing that Jimmy tells me, he says, "Ori," he says, "you're not going to believe this." He says, "Pete sent 2 guys down to pay his respects to my brother." He said, and they had a message to me that I was to talk to you because everybody thinks that you are the mob boss of Hollywood. And that's how it began. All right. From the boss sticking on the hot. That's the kind of boss he was, right? If he's got think too much about himself, I guess. I don't know. But that's how it began. And it hasn't stopped. But I never considered myself the mob boss. Yes, I did my own thing here. I don't bother nobody. I don't want nobody to bother me. And that's how I did things. So I wanted to correct that situation for everybody.
What is the relationship between the mafia and Hollywood?
Huh? What's the relationship? People don't understand. It's been a lifelong since the beginning of Hollywood. Okay? You know, everybody wants to say Frank Sinatra, who I know, Dean Martin, who I know, and many others. They are saying, I'm reading some of these things, all right, that these guys were in the mob. What people don't realize, no, they were not in the mob. They began, we owned all the nightclubs back in those days. This is where they sang. That's where they got their beginnings. So they got to know us. Okay? It was a great thing. And so, you know, Frank wasn't in the mob. Yeah, he was connected. Dean was, they knew people. That's it. Like you know people. Okay? Everybody knows somebody. It don't put you someplace. Okay? But, you know, anybody remember Decca Records? You do?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you do, Shaun. I bet none of the people listening ever heard of Decca Records. What is Decca Records today? It's Universal Studios. Okay? Began in New York. Decca Records. So Who owned it and who controlled it? The old guys in the mob did. So there's always been problems in Hollywood. There's always been gangsters around, and people love gangster movies. And so there's been a lot of movies about gangsters. Uh, you got two coming out. One this month. Well, it's not a gangster movie. It was funnier than hell. Comeback Trail with Robert De Niro. And then in March, you got Alto Nights, written by, Comeback Trail is written and directed by George Gallo, who's wrote and who's directing my film. And Alto Nights is written by Nick Pileggi, who's a dear friend of mine who wrote Casino and Goodfellas. And Alto Nights is about Frank Costello and Vito Genovese, and De Niro is playing both of them. And you shut this damn phone off. And so that's coming out March 21st. Everybody be able to see that movie.
You've got a question, Ori, from Monica. How much of the mob still controls Hollywood today?
The mob does not control Hollywood. Okay? They have no control on it, like you think, like people think. Okay? As far as the mob here in California, not much of any presence here anymore. Okay? It's almost all gone. And, the mob has changed since the old days, like the guys. I knew Frank Costello. I knew Carlo Marcello. People like that there. You're going way back, Meyer Lansky days. And, those were the real days of the mob. Everything after that it's all changed. Everybody's become an informant. And YouTube's full of informants. YouTube with the gangster genre actually was made by the informants. So what are those informants doing? They're training all their listeners how to be an informant. Okay, see, I was in the mob, but I informed. I'm out of it. Okay, I put 100 people in prison. That's what the fuck they're doing. All right.
Did the corporations buy the mafia out of Hollywood?
No. Nobody bought the mafia out of anything except Las Vegas. All right, Las Vegas was taken over by the corporation. I personally, I don't like Las Vegas nowadays. People love it because they don't know what it was back in the old days. But I started going there in the late 60s. I never paid for a drink. I never paid for a meal. I never paid for a room. I never paid to see a show. And when you walked in the casino, first worker and that employee and that casino saw you. Hey, Ori, how you doing? Great to see you. They knew everybody's name. They took care of the people. Gambling was the number one revenue. But corporation take it over. Gambling is no longer the number one revenue. Hotel rooms are. Can't get comped like you did back in those days.
You got a question from.
It was so much fun. You dressed up. It was a classy thing to go to the casino. Everybody was dressed. You didn't see no children. Today it's just a vacation spot for families. They go there.
You've got a question from Hamamoto. Did you know Mickey Cohen? My father took me to meet him at his Beverly Hills home.
Really? No, I did not know Mickey, but I did go to his home and I did do a story about Mickey. Okay, Mickey was a really tough guy, had a lot of control here in Los Angeles. You know, him and Bugsy, Benjamin Siegel. All right. They were two Jewish guys, had a lot of control with the syndicate. That was a syndicate now. Okay. That was not the mafia. You got to understand the difference between the syndicate and the mafia. It's a big difference.
All right. And for the viewers, then, I see Professor Hamamoto, I've sent you an email. Viewers, would you like Hamamoto to come on to talk about the Grammys? Put one in the chat, and we will endeavor to do that. So Natalie has got a question for you. What do you know about Marilyn Monroe and her death?
What do I know about it? Well, I had nothing to do with it. Let me get that out there first. Okay. I believe that she was murdered, given an overdose. All right. And there's been a lot of stories about it, and this and that, and uh, who actually did it, they're never going to know. So it's just going to become like Jimmy Alpha, a conspiracy theory. JFK, will we know when our government's going to come out finally with the paperwork on JFK? Are they going to be telling us the truth in there? Are those papers going to be redacted? There's a lot to that story. Okay. Who was at the grassy knoll? I seen pictures many years ago about two gentlemen at that grassy knoll. Johnny Roselli and Jimmy Fratiano were there. That's what I was told. I saw a picture of them there. A friend of mine had that. That has to be 40 years ago. I saw that. The Kennedys, powerful family. Old man Kennedy made a lot of money, dealt a lot with Frank Costello. He ended up being able to take that there, going legitimately. I forget what liquor company that the whole family still gets a percentage of everybody that comes over. There's no question that it was the mob that got Kennedy in as president. No question about that there. Nobody's ever disputing that. But old man Kennedy made his son Jack put his brother Bobby in as the head of the Department of Justice. And the first thing he did was go after the very same people that put him in office. So, what's the truth? What's not the truth? Nobody's alive to tell you. You hear different people telling you different things. Okay? I've heard different things. I was in a room with some of those names that I mentioned previously. Uh, sometimes in life, you got to be careful who you cross because you never know who you're crossing. It might be the quietest guy, but it might be that quiet guy that's going to do the most damage. So you don't know.
Very, very wise words. Do you think that the CIA contracted the mob with JFK?
The CIA is involved, absolutely. I believe it was the CIA that put Johnny Roselli, in that barrel down in Miami. All right, that killed him. Uh, Johnny Roselli, he was very powerful individual, very smart, well liked in Hollywood, had a lot, he was a powerhouse out here in Las Vegas, okay? And people don't realize how close he was to Howard Hughes. Now, back in the day, Howard Hughes was who Elon Musk is today, I guess, okay? Howard Hughes was, I remember back in the day, were only 3 billionaires in the world, and Howard Hughes was one of them. Okay, but when he went into Vegas and started buying hotels, he couldn't just buy them like that. All right. Jimmy Roselli arranged it with, boy, I'm going blank on the name. The guy that was with a former CIA guy that was with Howard Hughes. His name would come to me. Forgive me, folks. I am 80 years old. I do have a senior moment once in a while, not like Joe Biden, but uh, I can't remember his name. But then again, so that same CIA agent is when they wanted to get rid of Castro and how all that began. It all works and ties in together. Okay, I happen to know that the CIA they use guys like myself and others for certain things when they wanted something and needed something done. Okay, it's not like they did it once; they did it many times. Okay, they're very smart back in those days, anyways. I don't know how they are today. I stay away from that. There. Uh,
Keith wants to know if you knew Jack Ruby.
no, I did not know Jack Ruby, but there's another name. Jack Ruby was very well mob connected. Okay, so it was no accident. Okay, it's no accident that Ruby was at the jailhouse that day and killed the guy that they think shot Kennedy.
Oswald. So Chantel, have you watched
Oliver
Oliver Stone's
Stone,
movie JFK?
JFK, accurate. I can't even remember it. I did see it. I happen to know Oliver, nice guy. Uh, I can't really talk about that, whether it's accurate. Oliver does a good job and he does great research. So I'm going to assume it's fairly accurate.
Were you ever close to Frank Sinatra, and did he have a few people whacked?
I was close to Frank Sinatra and Frank never had nobody whacked.
Any Sinatra stories?
Oh, I tell the same story all the time. Everybody's heard them. I used to meet first how I met Frank was through Jimmy Cacci because Jimmy Cacci and guy down Jimmy was the boss of Palm Springs. They took all the action. Frank was a big gambler, and one time he lost $500,000 in one weekend. He couldn't tell his wife about it, so he was late in paying. So I met him with Jimmy. He said, "Give me a few days." And he got the money. Guess who gave him the money? Dean Martin. Dean was very smart with his money. Made a lot of money, Dean. So did Frank, obviously. Frank was a nice guy. He was an amazing individual. Everybody knows he was one of the greatest singers ever on this earth, at least in my era. And I get in my son's car, and my son says, Siri, play Frank Sinatra music. My son does that all the time for me. All right. And he knows all that technology stuff. And Frank comes on the radio. I love it. I used to meet Frank at Mateo's restaurant on Westwood Boulevard in Westwood. Sunday night was the night to go there. Mateo, Frank put the money in to help Maddie start that restaurant. Frank actually owned half of it. And then one, it's just the kind of guy Frank is. One